Well, the Celtics won. Thanks for joining this episode. That's it. We're done.
There's a split part of me that really wants to just drop that as a 1-minute podcast
We'll
and see
next
everybody's reaction. I quietly might do that for the video drop, so stay tuned for that. But
what's funny is from like the podcast standpoint, you can't see that I put the thanks for watching sign back up, so it just went quiet again.
Yeah, so you're gonna wonder what that was, but no, that was, it's not quite K-pop level of surprises, but Justin, I respect the tricks that have been up your sleeves lately, pal. They're pretty good.
All right, fine. Since you want stats, by seeding in games missed to injury for opponents, Boston just had the easiest road to the NBA Finals in the last 25 years. Thank you to the Athletic for that.
Do we want to keep hating? Somebody said this was less legitimate than the bubble run.
Oh, damn. Okay.
The kids are saying it's the ring with the least aura of all time. They said we're already talking about the Kendrick Lamar concert and the Lakers coach more. Is that true?
They needed 14 games to get through the Eastern Conference. Boston opponents missed an all-star in 9 of them.
I mean, look, congrats to Boston for winning Banner 18. They were the best team. Like, they just once you had Porzingis back.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we talked a bit about last week. And that's probably why we're starting with the Celtics winning in warm-up jumpers. And we're going to talk a little free agency and not do this backwards, is because, look, like, it was pretty clear after the first 3 games who the better team was here.
It was just over. Yeah.
Bringing Porzingis back. Like, I think you mentioned the teams. If I'm Indiana, I'm still sick about this because I go, hey, maybe we could have pulled this upset. And then who knows what happens once we get to the finals. But yeah, once Porzingis came back, it just, Boston had too many layers to them. And again, you got to give, Brad Stevens to me is the MVP in all this. Like, he would just won around all the edges. Like, you look at the trades to bring Drew Holiday in, the trades to bring Derek White in and Porzingis in, like, they all just worked extremely well. And it just gave them that margin for error that other teams didn't have. And I mean, look, they built a roster that makes sense. Jaylen Brown, finals MVP. Obviously, it's got to feel good for him especially the way that last playoffs went. I think people will look back at these playoffs as a mixed bag for sure. And I think if you want to hate on Tatum, they'll say, oh, he doesn't have the finals MVP and his shooting splits are really bad. But I also think he really did step into a playmaker role. Like, he played great defense the entire time. He was getting his teammates involved. So my biggest takeaway with this finals, and this isn't even on some Celtics, like, I'm trying to knock this out. Like, they're in a really good position. They could very well repeat next year. Like, they're going to run everybody back. There's no big contract questions. Like, Tatum is going to get the bag the way Jaylen got the bag, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. The big question is maybe Al Horford decides to retire just because, it's like what's left at this point. But he hasn't given any inclination of that.
Well, and my whole point, this is the same thing with what's his name leaving college basketball. Was it Hurley with the whole Lakers thing before this JJ Redick stuff, which we'll also talk about. Is like, why not run it back again? You quite literally are going to most likely have the same team with maybe a piece or two here. And if you're looking at the teams that you'll be competing with, maybe they're going to be healthy next year, but you should still be like, look, we feel confident that we've got the best team in the East. And if we run it back again, even if Embiid's healthy, Maxi's healthy, the Knicks are a full health, and Damian Lillard's figured out his thing, I think we still got him.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, their other big question for the offseason is Derek White. And it's going to take every ounce of cap space they have to re-sign Derek White, but it still doesn't seem like there's any inclination that's not going to happen. Like, it's a very mutual interest. He's extremely important to this roster. And so, I mean, that's the only knock, if you have one, is like, oh, they're going to be maxed out, but who cares? You just won the title. Like, look at how well the starting 5 played when they were all together. You feel pretty good. Again, things are going to happen quickly in free agency. We know how the NBA goes at this point. And yes, I don't think next year they will have a path that is so injury free, but that's also, again, the perks of being the number 1 seed. Like, we talk about that all the time. Boston so thoroughly dominated the regular season that they put themselves in a position to take advantage of, injuries and teams getting eliminated and things like that. You can't really fault them for that. It's harder to win back to back as we're seeing recently. I guess that's the bigger challenge is, we always want to say, because we said this with Denver last year too, though I think Denver had more changes than Boston had in terms of like Jeff Green left and Bruce Brown left, and like those were major rotation guys for them. But I mean, we're going now. It's been 6 straight seasons with a different NBA champion. Like that's the first time that's happened since the 70s. The league is changing quicker, and teams are more inclined, I think, to go in on a single year than they might have been in the past because that championship window may be more open than it's been. I mean, there's not a situation like the Warriors when they had Kevin Durant where it just felt like they were way better than everybody. It's going to be open. Parity is the name of the game, it seems, these days.
You might have already mentioned it. Jaylen Brown won the MVP award.
Yep.
And if you look back at the awards, I mean, Jokic last year, Curry, Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, LeBron, Andre Iguodala. I would say Iggy's the first time you could point to a player that wasn't like the star on the team.
I was narrative based too. He's the LeBron stopper. LeBron was cooking that whole series. Well, I know Iguodala played well, but in hindsight, I think Iguodala himself says that probably should have gone to Steph.
Well, and not saying that Jaylen didn't deserve it this year, but I think a lot of his defense on Luka is what puts him in that category too.
For sure. It was phenomenal. And that's a great point, Justin. I think Jaylen Brown was phenomenal on defense, with Luka as the main assignment for
and Tatum struggled. Like there were multiple points within the games where Tatum was struggling. So
yeah, I don't think it's that controversial. Like I think this is one of those final MVPs where it could have gone either way. Like I don't really think there's a wrong answer here, but you're right. Like that defensive end really mattered a lot, and Jaylen Brown was constantly taking Luka for a large portion of this series, and so you can't really knock it there. For Dallas, obviously it's a bit of a mixed bag because I think you're really happy getting to the finals. And I think when you look at where this team was, even at the beginning of the season and what they were able to do around the deadlines and the margins and bring their role guys in, and a combo of that and their young guys like Derek Lively, the rookie this year, already coming in and being able to play impact minutes, like you got to feel pretty good. At the same token, you got thoroughly trounced here in the playoffs, or in the finals, I should say. What do you do now? Or I guess, what do you think their biggest issues are that they need to address going into the offseason? Like we know what Luka is, but what else in your mind sticks out?
Yeah, Derek Lively, you kind of already talked about it. I think he looks like he's going to be phenomenal going forward. You got to figure out the ball movement. I mean, it goes back to it. I know I'm going to hate on the ISO ball again, but you got to figure out the team ball and getting more people involved. Luka's got to, I guess the word is mature a little bit more from not getting frustrated with the refs and finishing out plays or whatever it is. Get some depth, I think would also help. Not saying they don't have good depth players now. They have some that are, good young talent that they can use down the pipeline, but I think you just need a little bit more, and you need a little bit more of a moving offense, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think they need another punch. They're just kind of missing that, obviously, scoring wise. You had moments in these playoffs where like PJ Washington was great for them. You mentioned Lively and some of the other big guys as well. Giving them quality minutes. It's the Daniel Gaffords of the world and such. But you look at that roster, for example, a guy like Tim Hardaway is making a lot of money, but he just wasn't really contributing to this roster. Like they need another scorer, ideally a wing. Like that's the one thing I think they're in dire need of too. It feels they have the interior a little more figured out.
And it's worth mentioning the Mavericks do have 2 first-round picks to work with this offseason, that they could be trading if they wanted to. Like they could trade the 2025, they could trade the I believe it's 2031 to do whatever you're trying to do or whatever you see. Again, we're going to talk about it down the line. One person I thought would be an interesting add to Dallas. Now, again, Luka and Kyrie needing the ball so much made it look a little confusing. But I thought Alex Caruso would have been an interesting move and would have been a huge, at least defensive punch for Dallas to have going forward. Now, obviously, that trade has already happened, and he's now in OKC. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a lot to talk about that. I mean, their dream swings, if they're going to go wing, would be like, you really want to go for the home run, would be try to pry like a Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn, right? Or
what about like a Jimmy Butler?
I mean, not if I'm going wing. I mean, yeah, I think Jimmy would be great. I don't know if they have necessarily the ability to do that, asset wise. Their one big question, and I think this was kind of displayed in the finals, was with Derrick Jones Jr., right? Who is a great defensive player, and he hit shots for them during the season. But it's an issue when you get to the end of the playoffs. Like Boston was basically just daring him to take the three every time. Like it's not you always refer to it, or we always call it like the Andre Roberson effect, right? Where it was with those Thunder lineups. It's not quite that extreme, but it is a question. I think Dallas wants to bring him back and probably should bring him back. But I think that one is a little more of a question. Like where I'm kind of torn on the biggest direction to go. And that very well may be the biggest move they end up making in this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's I don't know what you do with Dallas. I just that offense was so stagnant and so iso ball that when you have a great defender like Jaylen Brown to clamp down on Luka, there goes half the offense. Now it's up to Kyrie, and we saw it, it work and not work in certain situations. So it's like, ugh, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, the other person or the other thing that could help with the Mavs too, before we get out of here, is I think Jalen Hardy. Like, you just got to hope he develops a little bit as well. He's not going anywhere, which is nice, but a little in-house development on that front too could go a long way for them. He gives them, he can create off the bounce. I think they're probably PJ Washington can do that a bit too, but I think that's an element to their offense that can help. Before we get off just the finals discussion in general and, intro the show and all that, I do want to ask you, and again, I want to say this and preface this because it's going to sound like I'm a hater, and I'm not. This has nothing to do with Boston. But does it feel like the NBA finals just came and went this year? And I mean, this is back-to-back years now where the seasons or the finals, I should say, were pretty uncompetitive. Like both 5-game series, both are situations with Denver and with Boston where we felt like they were pretty clearly the better team. And Boston, I think, had it showed by game one. Like maybe there's a little more of a question there, but I think after that beatdown in game one, you kind of knew what it was. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the NBA, though, has done, and maybe it's the broadcast a little bit too. Maybe it's the production overall, but it just feels like, I don't know. There wasn't that excitement this year. And it feels like for there being the finals, like there just wasn't the juice to it that there usually is. Like, I don't know. You can't force matchups. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they're just a little lopsided, but
when you have a small market team like the Celtics, no. Okay. I'm telling you, man, I get what you're saying, and I completely agree. I think the climax of excitement in the NBA playoffs this year ended in the conference semifinals with the Timberwolves Nuggets, the Pacers Knicks. Thunder Mavs was kind of competitive, but I feel like
that was a good series.
I know, but the Timberwolves Nuggets and the Pacers Knicks were bloodbaths. Like, they were fun. And then you had the Celtics and Cavs. It was like, meh. You had the Celtics and Pacers, and sure, yes, the games were like a little bit closer than the sweep shows, but it was still a sweep. And then you had Dallas and Timberwolves, and then Timberwolves like laid an egg, and it just was 4-1 sweep. And so, yeah, I think the exciting games ended with Knicks, Pacers, Timberwolves, Nuggets.
Yeah, I agree with that. Overall, as a playoffs, it was pretty disappointing. I agree with you in that Denver and Minnesota was the series of the playoffs to me that really brought it for sure. I mean, a few other entertaining ones, like the Sixers-Knicks series was great.
Yep.
The Knicks-Pacers series, like you said, was pretty great.
Cavs Magic went 7. I mean, that
Yeah.
was competitive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a little more lopsided in some of those games, but you're right. That did go the distance, so it is worth mentioning that.
Pacers Bucks was fun because it was like a little unexpected with the Pacers being so good there.
Yeah, Doc Rivers got to look like a fraud. That's always fun.
That's why we like it. That's why we like it.
No, you're right. It was overall. It was kind of a meh playoffs, and I tweeted this the other day because ESPN Cleveland. It was the anniversary of the Game 7 with the Warriors and the Cavs in 2016. So it's 73 win Warriors versus LeBron, and I think, in my opinion, at least, I think that's the best game that we've covered since doing the podcast. Like, in terms of entertainment, I go back and I say, yeah, that's number one to me. And I mean, to me, there's an argument that's one of the better games of basketball ever. Like, if someone says that's my number one, I'm not really going to argue with it too much.
You're good.
I just I don't feel like, and we've had great finals matchups since then, and we've had games since then, but man, I just think about how high stakes that was and how borderline like life and death that felt at some points, where there just hasn't been that the last few years, and that's kind of disappointing. I mean, the last final series that I really go to that was super fun was, I guess, Phoenix and Milwaukee.
Yeah, NBA Finals. Let me pull them up so we can see.
Was in the bubble a little bit, but we all kind of knew the Lakers were going to win that series. Like, Jimmy was just willing at that point.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, the Raptors and Warriors series was okay.
Yeah, so it went Boston, Dallas this year, Denver, Miami last year.
Right.
Yeah, Warriors, Boston the year before.
That was a good series. That's the best one recently, in my opinion.
Bucks, Suns, that's 2021.
That was a good one too.
Lakers, Heat was 2020.
It was good, not great.
Yeah, it went 4-2. Raptors, Golden State, like you said, it went 4-2.
Just injuries, though, kind of derailed that one a little bit.
Warriors, Cavs, 2018. Warriors, Cavs, 2017.
And the Kevin Durant Warriors Cavs series weren't really that entertaining, just because you kind of knew what it was.
But,
the 16 is one of the greatest ever, and I think 15 the year before. 15 is tough because of injuries. The year before that, now if you really want to keep going, then you start getting spoiled. Like, second Spurs Heat series was whatever, but that first one was a classic for sure.
Yep, 2013 that won 7.
Yeah, 2012 was okay.
Can you tell me, after Miami Heat and Spurs in 2013, which went 7, the next 2 that went 7?
One of them is the Boston Lakers series in 2010, which is classic. That's one of the best ones ever. When Kobe won. That was number 5 for Kobe. Let me see. Before that, the Celtics won 6 in 08, right? I think it was in 6.
08 was 6. Yeah, Celtics Lakers was 4-2.
Okay, hang on. It might be 2. It might be like 05, I think, then, right? Because it's probably was that Spurs and Pistons went 7.
Yep, that's 2005. Is that
and the final score of that game was like in the 80s, I think, dude. It was classic, like 2000s basketball, and both of those teams grinding it out. Yeah, that was definitely like one. And yeah, I mean, there aren't many that go 7 like that. But that was a great series, and I mean, there were a bunch sprinkled in between there. That Boston Lakers series is one of the better ones. I would say that Heat Mavericks was a pretty good series, honestly. Not great, but that was a good series for sure. But either way, it's just kind of disappointing that we've had 2 straight stinkers in the finals. Like, they just haven't been competitive. There's no way around it. And that's, I think, as a casual who is rooting for the best basketball, that's a little disappointing. But welcome everybody to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me as always, my co-host, Justin Cousart.
I'm thrown off. I don't have a tweet. I screwed it up.
That's fine. I was gonna say fire off the K-pop theme or something in the meantime, but that for later. Have that in the background, and we got a lot to talk about anyway. Free agency is buzzing. Few deals have signed already. We're gonna get some of that. Who's balling, who's falling. We got to talk about this Caruso trade. I am locked and loaded and ready to go. In case you have an idea of where my head's at with this. And of course, we're going to play Immaculate Grid later on in the episode, so stay tuned for that. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us.
And you can find us on YouTube. We do video version of the podcast. That is where you can sign up and watch. If you don't want to watch it or listen to it on the podcast side of things, search Driving Dish NBA. And you'll get notifications when new episodes are coming out if you subscribe.
Now, word from our sponsors.
So, Kevin, I want to do a player comparison with you again.
Okay.
Player A and player B both played over 70 games this season. Player A averages 12.3 points per game, 6.4 total rebounds, 4.8 assists, around a 47% field goal percentage, 33% from three, so not great. A box plus minus of 1.5 and a VORP of 1.8.
Okay.
The other, player B, averages 10 points, 3.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, does average more blocks and steals, so 1.7 steals, 1 block a game. 3-point percentage is 40%, field goal percentage is 46%, a 59 effective field goal percentage, box plus minus of 2.5 and a VORP of 2.3. Which player are you rolling with?
I was I was pretty sold until the advanced you had. I was like, oh, I'm going with the first one for sure. Yeah. But the advanced kind of chumped me a little bit. But I'll go first one for the sake of it.
Okay. That's Josh Giddey.
Okay.
And number 2 is Alex Caruso.
Okay, good Lord. Okay, then never mind. I completely flipped my opinion already. Wolf. Then we're not telling the whole thing. What are the defensive box plus minuses there then?
Yeah, let me see if I can find that real quick. Because I did find it interesting that they were like that. Okay, defensive box plus minus. You want this number. One player A, has a defensive box plus minus of 0.4.
Mm-hmm.
And player B has a defensive box plus minus of 2.3.
Yeah, so that might swing it a little bit one way. Justin, I have refreshed this trade at least like 30 times, and I had to make sure that I read it correctly, because this is one of the worst trades I've ever seen. It is horrendous. The Chicago Bulls got fleeced so bad, and I feel so bad for that franchise or for their fans at least, I should say, because, man, they wanted out of Gary Paxton so bad, and we're so happy to get rid of that front office, and they brought in Karnisovas, and he was ready to rock. And oh my God, he might be worse, dude. He should be arrested for basketball crimes. I am not kidding. The Bulls might be the worst franchise in the NBA. They are an absolute joke from top to bottom. And this Caruso trade is legitimately basketball malpractice. If I were a Bulls fan, I'd probably be yelling into this microphone right now. It's so bad.
The timing's weird for sure.
No, it sucks. Everything about it stinks out loud. The timing is bad. The swap itself is bad. There's nothing redeeming about it. They had offers during the season of Alex Caruso, who, mind you, I think is one of the more coveted players in the league because he's a great defender. He contributes. So every contender in the league wanted Alex Caruso, or were at least inquiring about him. The contract wasn't a turnoff, which, oh, by the way, it's expiring this year. So even if you were weirdly turned off for that for some reason, it wasn't an issue. They were getting offers of upwards of 3 to 4 first rounders during the season for Alex Caruso. And then so you decided after the season ended to trade Caruso when he wasn't at the peak of his value for Josh Giddey, who, oh, by the way, was getting benched in Oklahoma City when they were going on in the playoffs this year. And besides all the off-the-court issues, which we don't even get into, which might be problematic to say the least, he might stink. He might not actually be good. So you traded a valuable player who's a confirmed winner and contributes that had all the value in the world for a guy that may not be good, straight up with no extra picks attached to it. It's inexplicably bad for Chicago. I cannot believe how unserious this move was.
I would say Giddey is one of the better passers in the league.
Oh, good. Great. Awesome. I'm glad they got a good passer.
He gets triple doubles. It's very Rubio-esque in the triple doubles that he gets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's not great. That's me
He's
just trying
trending
to
down.
Well, that's my point. So like from an OKC side of things, there was
Oh,
yeah.
this is a home run for Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
I think Sam Presti got this trade offer and had to first, like, the way I was wiping my eyes, I think he had to like check the phone and make sure that he wasn't getting like scammed from overseas right now somewhere. I think he may have sprinted to the league office faster than anyone who's sprinted the league office in history to get this trade. This is an A+ for Oklahoma City. Like, I look at this and go, you have Lou Dort and you have Caruso now just putting opponents in hell defensively.
But chess, not checkers, from the Bulls side of thing, they owe their top 10 protected first round pick to the Spurs. So they have to be bad this year. They have to be in the top 10 or they're going to owe Spurs their pick.
Sure. That's horrendous asset. You would have had 4 picks. You wouldn't have been worried about that this year. You had 4 first rounders.
Yeah.
It's just inexplicably bad asset management. Now the reports are saying that they want to go on and they want to move, like, you know, they're going to look at Andre Drummond's a free agent, I should say, but like they're going to look at moving DeRozan, they're going to look at moving Vucevic and all this other fun stuff. I am legitimately like having PTSD if I'm a Bulls fan and I'm worried about them making moves right now, especially like, you know, you go off the Vooch trade. What was it? They haven't had a trade in so long. Wasn't that a stat at one point where it's like the Vooch trade was horrendous, and now you follow it up with the Caruso trade? It's like your 2 last trades may have been 2 of the worst trades in NBA history.
And I did see that, I can't find the article now, but I did see that there was apparently like 15 teams that they reached out to about Zach LaVine. Yeah. About a potential trade. I know, like right now, they're saying the Kings are the most likely to want to play ball. So they're
going to get Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes, and they're going to flip Zach LaVine, and Sacramento is going to be laughing and just rubbing their hands and
beam team, baby.
We'll talk about beam team in a little bit. Beam team, I'm pleasantly surprised with what the beam team has already been able to do this offseason. But
I will say, like, the main thing that confuses me about the Bulls stuff, and I know you already kind of hit this, the timing is so odd. Like the draft is right around the corner. You could have let things get built up a little bit more. Like I understand people were probably hitting you up about Alex Caruso, but it's like you probably could have waited till draft night if you're going to do a move. It's not like it would have went crazy, you know. This specific trade would have definitely been on the table.
Yeah, I mean, he's on an expiring contract. He's a good player on an expiring deal who every contender wants. Like, I feel like I just keep beating that drum. The value wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, if you want to move him and say, hey, we got a promising young player who, you know, we just put them in a new scenario, Caruso wasn't going to help our timeline, that would have been all good and dandy. But it's just Josh Giddey. That's the other thing too, is it's like he's trending down right now. Like, he was getting, my last memory of Josh Giddey was him getting benched in the playoffs because he was hurting Oklahoma City. Like, I don't think it's a bad move for Chicago. Like, I don't see it.
I did have a good laugh at someone's post from what is it? Space Jam, where they took a picture of Porky Pig, who's in a white and blue basketball shirt with a sweatband on his head, and he's going up for a dunk, and they put it next to Alex Caruso in a white and blue OKC jersey, and it was like, I can't unsee this now, and I'm like, that's awesome. That's dope. The internet's undefeated in that aspect.
It is. It's such a good move for OKC too, man. I can't get like, this is exactly the type of moves that they should be making. I mean, I look back way too early, look at the Western Conference, but you got to feel good if you're OKC running that back. He helps your 100%. Timeline. If you want to pay him, great. If not, it's a 1-year rental that you just, again, gave a guy for that you were probably not going to pay long-term and play, or, you know, continue in your rotation with anyway. Like, I like what they're building a lot. Like, you just, again, the number 1 seed in the West just got better from last year.
Yep. Yeah, no, I completely agree. So, do you think there will be any more moves going forward before the draft?
For Chicago or in general?
Yeah, well, let's say I was going to say Chicago, but sure, in general, just to give them a little bit of a blanket.
I mean, the big trades and things to watch, because the Paul George saga got a little more interesting with the report that he wants to opt in and get traded. And if he opts in and gets traded, I think that takes the Sixers right out. I think the Sixers are only trying to sign Paul George as a free agent. You don't want to burn your assets after you just kind of got a few back. And at that point, if he wants to stay in LA, like maybe it does work out. Like I can totally understand that. I think there's probably an underrated chance of him going back to the Clippers, and they should be making that move if they can. Maybe other teams, we mentioned Orlando. I still think they get feisty. Klay Thompson, they are saying they don't want to offer more than 2 years for Klay. So we'll see how that market shakes out, but I expect them to be involved. The big trade that I feel like has gotten slept on, or I feel like isn't being discounted or isn't being talked about enough that could shake up the league a little bit, is I want to see what Atlanta's going to do. Like, we're not going to go deep into the draft this episode, full disclosure. We're going to heavy recap it after the draft has happened. There's just enough free agency stuff going on, and we wanted to mention the finals as well. But Atlanta's got the number 1 overall pick. It seems pretty clear and pretty obvious, honestly, as well, that they just shouldn't run it back with Murray and with Trae Young. But if they're moving Trae Young, that's a pretty big piece. You wonder what that gets and what they do there. And
it should have been my player tweet is Trae Young's cryptic, hourglass doing its thing.
There's a few teams that somebody mentioned Miami to me, and I kind of like that.
I saw Lakers. I feel like I saw Spurs at one point, Spurs which would be interesting.
That's what I was going to mention. I think the Spurs should go in and get Trae Young. I think they absolutely should. And Wemby's so good defensively that he covers up what Trae can't do, which is defend anyone. I don't know. I think that's what they've kind of been looking for.
I also wonder, and it's. I might be higher on him than some other Sixers fans might be, but I'm very interested in Brandon Ingram, and I wonder if he's available.
Oh, he's definitely available. You are high. You are in the minority here. Why are you high on Brandon Ingram? I'm curious.
I've just always kind of enjoyed watching him play down in New Orleans. Like I just felt like he always was underrated, I guess is the word. And so in that aspect, I feel like he fits in perfect for the Sixers. Because he's not going to be coming in thinking he needs to be the second scorer on the team. You know what I mean? Like he's ready. He can fit right in as a second or third scorer, depending on how you want to do it. I don't know. He's just always stuck out to me as a player I've always paid attention to, especially once he went to the Pelicans. So yeah, I am interested. And younger, 26.
No, the age is, I'm with you there. I don't think that's an issue. It's interesting because I would have agreed with you 2 years ago, but that's just fair. My view on Brandon Ingram is just soured a little bit, and maybe it's a little recency bias with the way the playoffs went this year for the Pelicans, but I just kind of thought Brandon Ingram stuck it up, and he's making a lot of money. Like now it's at the point where he is making max money, and it just feels like he's a very expensive, kind of mediocre third option. I haven't been impressed with the last 2 years. Like it's been kind of inefficient. I'm at the point where I'm a little opposite. Like I think Brandon Ingram is my nightmare scenario from a Sixers standpoint.
Well, and I wonder if the value has gotten so low, what the price, you know what I mean? Like what would be the price to get him if it is that low now?
That's the Zach LaVine question, right? And I think that's what the Bulls were trying to figure out, because Zach LaVine is not a bad player, but he's on a contract where he's probably making more money than he should. And so that's the question is what do you need to attach? You're not going to get this home run max offer that you would get for him if he was on a regular deal.
Well, and I will say too with Ingram, obviously games played is always a worry, but even last year, 20 points per game he played 64. So he was averaging 20 points per game, almost 6 assists, 5 rebounds, shooting, where was his 3-point percentage? You definitely want to see that higher. 35%, but he's never, you know what I mean? Like he shot 39% in 22-23, which I guess would be his highest, but I don't know. Something about Ingram has always stuck out to me for whatever reason. And I'm having trouble placing it at the moment, other than I've just always gravitated to watching his game when the Pelicans were on.
Yeah, he's had moments. Like, that's the thing. And I remember when he got drafted, like, there was always that discussion of, like, would he give you enough to take him over Ben Simmons? In hindsight, yes. But, it's one of those things where I just, again, maybe it's recency, but the last 2 years have kind of stunk it up for me. He's not a bad player. Like, I don't want to, again, it's all about spending the money wisely for me. And I don't think trading for Brandon Ingram's salary is spending your cap space wisely.
It is interesting that the Pelicans play him, at least in the last 2 seasons, significantly more in the shooting guard position than small forward.
Yeah.
Where when he was, again, I know team changed, but when he was playing more than 60% at small forward, he was a plus 8.5. Per 100 possessions on court. So I don't know, just an observation off looking at his play-by-play numbers real quick.
Yeah. I mean, another guy, if he became available, who I think would be interesting to watch is Kyle Kuzma. If the Wizards decide to move on, I think there's a lot of contenders who would take a swing at Kuzma.
Oh, yeah.
A little bigger of a contract now, but I think there's a lot of value there still.
Would you rather Kuzma or Ingram?
Oh God, Kuzma probably, because I think he's on I don't think I'm paying as much for Kuzma. That and I mean, like, not contract wise. I'm talking just strictly in terms of what it takes to get him too.
Yeah.
I think Brandon Ingram is going to take a borderline. I wouldn't say max offer. I do think the playoffs lowered it a little bit, but yeah, you're probably giving up a few picks to get Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. Well, but I feel like Kuzma, I don't know.
Kuzma might get you like 1 pick if you're giving up a first rounder.
That's fair. All right. Oh, well, I was trying to run a number without. I was
Ingram's
trying to
a better player than Kuzma. Like, Ingram in a vacuum is better than Kyle Kuzma, but I think I can get Kuzma cheaper, and he can give me, like, Kuzma's not going to, he just knows his role. Like, he's a good, like, glue guy on a winning team.
Interesting. Yeah, he's got Ingram in points and total rebounds. But Ingram pretty much has him in everything else. The box plus minus is pretty alarming. He's 1.2 for Ingram. It's actually negative 1.1, which I know has a lot to do with the team as well.
The team was good though.
No. The Kuzma's team.
My bad. I thought you were reading Brandon Ingram's stats. I was like, wait a minute, the Pelicans made the playoffs.
No. Yeah, he was a box plus minus.
Kuzma's on an unserious roster right now, though. You know what I mean? Like, they're out here just doing whatever they want. So it's hard for me to read into anything the Wizards are doing.
I know. Ingram's got a offensive rating of 115, defensive rating of 114. Kuzma's offensive rating is 103, and his defensive rating is 120.
Oof. Oh my goodness. Again, though, you're playing for the Wizards. It's like when Hachimura was there and got traded. You know, you just kind of know what it is.
Ingram's got a 5-1 win share. I don't know, man.
I'm not making decisions off win shares, though.
No, but I don't know. I don't know. There's something about Ingram. There's something about him.
No, I get it. I really do. It's the always he's always been like, when is he going to morph into the superstar? I just think the question is like, or maybe the reality is like, if it hasn't happened yet, maybe it's just not going to happen.
Really? You know what I should do here?
What's that?
Player comparison. I should do, if we're going to compare anybody, it should be Ingram to Tobias.
Oh God, that's gross. God help.
But would we get more out? You know what I mean? Like, if Tobias Harris's numbers
I get
are
more
better,
out of Brandon Ingram, but I worry about Brandon Ingram becoming Tobias 2.0.
They're very close, dude.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'm so low. I just swing. Did we just swing it?
Dude, this hurts. And like, I'm talking splitting hairs after you look at box plus minus. That's the only thing that's like a little bit different. But like, points per game, 20 to 17. Total rebounds, 5.1 to 6.5 on Tobias' side. Assists, 5-7 on Brandon Ingram's, 3 assists on Tobias. Steals and blocks, they're both about 1 if you round up or down, depending on how you want to do it. Field goal percentage, 49% Brandon Ingram, 48% Tobias. 3-point percentage, 35 Brandon Ingram, 35 Tobias Harris. Free throw, 80% Brandon Ingram, 87% Tobias. Tobias has him an effective field goal. Box plus minus, Ingram's got a 1.2. Tobias has a 0.9. Vorp's 1.7 around.
The point is, I hate it here. If that's the move, like that's just that you have made your point for me more. I'm so thankful you did that player comparison because you just made my point so much better than the last 5 minutes did.
Yep. Tobias had, well, again, I know win shares and all that stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's very close.
Brandon Ingram, the concept outweighs Brandon Ingram, the player to me at this point.
Damn.
All right, who's balling, who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like start with the good before the bad. And now that I just burst Justin's bubble, you got a few good things here. So who you got balling this week?
Do you want to start with JJ or Malik?
You tell me. It's your balling.
All right, let's start with JJ, who's having the best retirement of his life. He just retired and became an analyst at one of the top shows on ESPN on First Take, goes into the podcasting world with co-host LeBron James, and now he is head coach of arguably the biggest franchise in NBA, the Lakers. Dude has not missed like he didn't miss his three-point shots while he was playing.
I'm glad that he's okay being the second option because that would be my question. Is I know if the ego hit would be enough.
That's fair. Listen, but if you have zero experience, like I'm kind of okay being the second option.
Yeah, I mean, low key, you are not wrong there.
Although, if you want to make a weird comparison, if I'm a virgin and I'm trying to like date some girl and she's like, "Nah, I'm going to this guy first. You'll be my second option." I do have feelings about that.
I don't know where I thought you were going with that. And never mind. I mean, you are 100% right. That is crazy. Did you see what Matt Stafford's wife said on the podcast?
Yes, I sent that to my buddy. Dude, that's aggressive.
That hurt. That hurt me, man. Matt Stafford didn't deserve that.
Yeah, she's got some haters for real.
That's how I feel like that would say if you said that other comment to me. That's why I'd feel like that right now. And if anybody wants to know what we're talking about, just Google Matt Stafford's podcast comments and it'll come up. It's not that important. Anyway, yeah, back to JJ Redick. Look, we've already done the X's and O's with this. We know what it is. It's a wild hire. With LeBron and AD being as advanced in their careers as they are with the expectations right away, it might work. It might not. We're going to find out really fast. I think the circumstances around the hire itself are kind of indicting around the Lakers right now.
Yep.
They've been kind of a mess, and LeBron has covered up the fact that they've been kind of a mess for the better course of a decade now. And I think at moments like this, that shows itself a little bit. I did get a chuckle too as well and this has nothing to do with JJ, but it does in a way, when ESPN, their whole reason from letting go of Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, but specifically with Jeff Van Gundy, is like, oh, we're worried he might just go become a coach somewhere. And then they immediately hired Doc Rivers and JJ Redick, who now have both gone on to become coaches again in the last year. Like, oh my goodness.
Listen, I we've already talked about it. You alluded to it. It's like, it's a confusing move to me from a standpoint of the Lakers are in hardcore win now mode if LeBron and AD are there. And if AD or LeBron or whatever is happening and someone's leaving, then like, okay, that makes a little more sense because now JJ has a little bit of leeway to figure out what he wants to do or learn the coaching ropes, but not. It could go south real fast, Yeah. It could get bad real quick.
Yeah, it's real boom or bust. Like you went all in. Like it's either going to be great or it might blow up in your face. Like we're going to find out one way or another.
It's quite literally it's a corner three with the clock winding down to 0. Is it going to go in? I don't know.
Yeah, we will find out. It's certainly sooner than later. All right, balling for me this week is Pascal Siakam, who has agreed to a 4-year, $189.5 million deal to stay in Indy with the Pacers. Not a super surprise, obviously. This was kind of, I don't think Indy makes this move with Toronto if they don't have this in mind. Obviously, with what they gave up, you have to make this offer. I think Siakam certainly played himself into that money as well with helping Indy in the conference finals. I mean, even in that series against Boston, he excelled. I thought he was great. Yeah, not really surprised here all around, but max money confirmed. And when they made that move, that was kind of what it was with the Pacers, who apparently also not a part of Ballin, but are going to apparently lock our boy TJ McConnell up to a deal that'll basically finalize, his career in Indy more or less.
I have a TJ McConnell jersey for the Pacers.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. Austin Lane gave you that, right?
Yeah, because we had an argument back in the day where I alluded to the fact that TJ McConnell was a star for Philly fans, and he wouldn't let it go.
He's a folk hero, dude.
That's what I said. I was like,
Sixers process folk hero.
Dude, he will always have it. He is the only game I have ever seen a buzzer beater.
He had two.
I know, and I was at one of them. I was so pissed off because Embiid wasn't playing because it was against Orlando and he was resting.
Yep.
And TJ McConnell came out and dropped a 20-point buzzer beater bomb.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That game against the Knicks too. That's one of the more iconic regular Sixers season wins in a while. He turned around, hit the fadeaway. Listen, TJ's a baller, and I mean, I think he showed in the playoffs what he brings to the table. He's just a guy you want on your team. He plays really hard. He gives you 100% effort every possession. He makes the right play. There's a reason. The only reason he left the Sixers is because he just got we couldn't afford him anymore, to put it bluntly. And Indy took advantage of that. And look, we saw conference finals. He shined. It was good for him to see that his game get recognized on a national stage. So yeah, I mean, good for him. Like I said, he's one of those guys. He's the ultimate success story. Grinded through summer league and the G League, and worked your way up, and now is going to end with a 10+ year NBA career.
It is worth mentioning that Alex Caruso did similar. He played for OKC's G League affiliate team.
Yeah,
when he first started. So it kind of full circle moment for him.
Him and Mark Daigneault reunited. Mark Daigneault was the head coach of that G League team.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah, boys are back in town.
Well, there you go. So my last Ballin, because I have two, is going to be Malik Monk, who just agreed to a 4-year deal near $78 million, including a player option. Woj put that out the other day. Monk would have been able to start talking to other teams on the 30th legally. Just put that out there. So that's when the open market would have happened. So it makes sense to lock him up now. Monk had a career best 15 points, 5 assists. He was runner-up for 6th man of the year this year. So good for him. And the Beam team continues to shore up its guys.
Yeah, good for Sacramento. I got to be honest. I didn't think they were bringing him back. I thought Malik Monk was going to walk. He was going to be a guy that commanded a lot of money on the open market. So you're right. It was a good decision for Sacramento to get this deal done. I think the terms are pretty fair. What was the final number? $78 million. That's definitely what I would want to pay for Malik Monk. There were a lot of teams who would have put money out. So it just felt like after the season, on the social, if you were reading tea leaves, you kind of felt like he was saying goodbye and all that. But I know everyone in that locker room wanted him back. He's a big part of the success they've had there the past 2 seasons. I think offensively, he's extremely important to them. So yeah, this is a great move by Sacramento to get this done and bring him back. Like I said, I really thought he was walking. So this is a pleasant surprise for the Kings.
Yeah. So good for them.
Fallin for me this week, and this is the most Fallin of all time, but it's Monty Williams who got fired by the Pistons. And so he is fallen in that sense, is that he will not be coaching next year.
Yeah.
Look, man, I mean, when him and Cade were kind of going at it, but Monty Williams was just making all sorts of head-scratching decisions all season long, which the Pistons hire Monty Williams, and what they paid Monty Williams looks even more head-scratching because, and this is why, of course, it is the most Fallen of all time. They are on the hook for $67.5 million from Monty Williams the next 3 seasons to finish out his contract.
Sitting and chilling.
Just to not coach the team, he's going to be making that money. And oh, by the way, from his previous Phoenix contract, he still owed $20 million on that. So Monty Williams is getting paid almost $100 million to not coach NBA basketball.
Must be nice.
A dream, man. You want to talk about living the dream. And let me be clear. I think Monty Williams did a terrible job in Detroit and 100% should be fired. And I think Pistons fans are rejoicing right now. I think if anything, they were worried about him doubling down. They was, and just biting on that contract because you just already made it. But it's the sunk cost theory. They got out of it, thankfully, instead of just, trying to pour more energy in there, because it was like his rotations were so astoundingly bad this all season. Like, I was worried about them stunting the growth of their younger players. It's a new era. Hopefully, they hired obviously Trajan Lognan to help run the team, bringing him over from New Orleans, and so Troy Weaver is out. Everything stunk in Detroit last year. Word to them losing the most games in a row in NBA history. So at least it feels like things are starting to go in the right direction. We'll see who they end up hiring. There's a few names that have been thrown around, but nothing too final yet.
I agree.
All right. So should we jump into some Immaculate Grid then?
Let's do it. All right.
$100 million to not coach almost.
Must be nice.
That is amazing, dude.
I mean, I'd be down. You don't got to tell me twice.
Yeah, just like sign me up for a job that I'm terrible at for 1 year and then fire me and then pay me out the whole contract, though.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
All right. So Immaculate Grid, and for the podcast
do we have some Alfred Payton potential?
Okay.
No, I don't think we can. I don't think we
well, all right. We're out there already. The Alfred Payton giveth, the Alfred Payton taketh away. But for the podcast listeners, of course, you can watch the Immaculate Grids on YouTube if you want. But our columns this week from left to right, the Orlando Magic, the Atlanta Hawks, and Finals MVP are rows from top to bottom. The Celtics, the Warriors, and 20 points a game per season. I do think we're going to go 9 for 9. I feel pretty confident about calling that shot. But Justin, where are you at this week? Where's your head at? Let's get it started.
I think we got to go Iggy for Finals MVP.
You're right. We did bring that up earlier. And it'll be lower than Steph. It'll be the only other one that I think will be lower is Rick Barry. Rick Barry won on the Boomer Warriors championship back in the day.
Should we throw it way back then?
But I still think, it's one of those things where it's like Rick Barry's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think Iguodala will be high because it was recent. But
but the other ones were kind of recent too.
What do you mean? Oh, with Steph?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. Steph is going to be number one. I think we all know that.
41.
Yeah, 41. Okay. I think, dude, because it's so weird, and that's why it's so funny. And
I know.
You know what people associated with too? With that Max Kellerman clip where he was like, fade to the earth on the line, one shot, I want Iguodala. And that's an insane statement. Where like even Iguodala was like, I remember we came back on that show later and was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
are you okay?
Steph Curry made 100 3-pointers in a row in an open gym once. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, like come on.
You could use. You know what would have been wild? I don't think he did them in the same year, and I don't know if Iguodala ever averaged 20. But if he would have been over 20 in Finals MVP, that would have been crazy.
That would have been a good one for sure.
I mean, Steph would be that in that regard. Obviously, works there. There are a lot of answers there.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain, I think, would have worked for Warriors too because he won in Philly with the Warriors. His first championship was there. He won with the Sixers as well, but I think Wilt might have worked there as well. Regardless, okay. So Celtics and Magic, I know two that work without, or let me rephrase that. No, yeah, I know two. Just kidding. I know Brandon Bass, who we used last week.
We've talked about Brandon Bass a few times.
Brandon Bass works for sure. The other one that works is a little more recent, so I kind of want to back off it, is Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier was on Orlando, obviously, for a while. He was over at Boston recently. Shaq works.
I was going to say Shaq works for sure.
That's probably number one, honestly.
What about I feel like he played a lot for Orlando. Jameer Nelson. He played a lot of Orlando.
Boston definitely played for Orlando for sure. He was on the Finals team.
And I think he was on Boston, but I don't remember if he was on it. Like he never played or.
Oh man,
I kind of remember a Boston.
I remember Jameer Nelson on Denver. I remember Jameer Nelson on
Orlando. And I think after Orlando, I think he went to Boston for a little bit.
Okay. I'm down. It'll be low. I mean, he was on Orlando confirmed. If you want to, if we want to burn it early, I'm down to try Jameer Nelson. He's lower than anybody I'm going to think of right now.
I think he went to Boston. He went to
St. Joe's boy, so obviously local for us.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Him and Delonte West, who I always hope is doing well.
Yeah, you
Makes
saw
me
that
sad.
most recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do we go Jameer?
I trust your intuition. I don't know. I just do. I mean, I know you're 50% right. So usually I've noticed with Grid, when you get a weird random idea like that, it's usually not wrong.
I just don't remember if it's like I kind of remember him going from Orlando, and I can't remember if he went
He's
to
on
Dallas.
Dallas for a little bit, for sure.
Dallas is what I remember. And then I thought Boston was in that cluster of him going. Jameer. No, how does he spell it? IER?
Everyone,
Nope.
no, it's too easy. It's JAM. Yeah.
There he is.
And
Jameer.
if this is wrong, by the way, our second guest in, everybody blame Justin. Tweet him. It's all his fault.
No, we're good.
2%. Wow,
2%.
2% is more than I thought. Good Lord.
2%. I guess a lot of people remember that. Okay.
All right, I looked that up. I'm curious. I genuinely am curious now. I didn't remember that.
Rondo would work. Hawks, Boston.
Rondo works. Dennis Schroeder works.
Schroeder's my go-to.
Our boy, yeah. Schroeder is a go-to. He's pretty good. I mean, he's played on a lot of teams. He was pretty terrible in Boston. That's almost when he flamed out of the league, honestly.
Yeah.
Obviously glad that didn't happen for his sake. Dude, Jameer Nelson was on Boston for 6 games.
Wow.
2014, 2015. He was on Orlando, obviously, from the time he was drafted all the way till 2014. 2014, 2015, he was on Dallas at the beginning of the season for 23 games. Then he was on Boston for 6. And then he went to Denver. He went to Denver then for the rest of the season. And then he was in Denver for 2 more years after that. And then he played for the Pelicans for 1 year, or not even 1 full year. He played for the Pelicans for 43 games, and he played for the Pistons for 7 in 2017, 2018, and that was it.
You know who else works?
I guess Jameer now, or no, I didn't say Atlanta. Never mind. Just kidding.
Chris Humphries.
Chris Humphries does work. We've been using him a lot too, but Chris Humphries does work for sure.
Chris Humphries.
Al Horford is the obvious one.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Everyone is going to get.
Teague. I feel like all the point guards at one point. Schroeder, Teague, Rondo. I feel like they all work.
Teague, I'm less sure of. Rondo, I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Schroeder, I'm 100%. Teague definitely played for Atlanta. I don't remember if he played for Boston or not.
Teague ended up on Milwaukee at one point. I know that.
He won the championship with Milwaukee.
Yeah. I just don't remember. I do remember him on Boston, and I just don't know when. But all right. So who do we want to go with then? Humphries.
No, might work too. Now that I just thought of, dude, does Evan Turner work there? Probably. Evan Turner definitely played for Boston. I'm 100% he played for Boston.
Evan Turner
with Atlanta. I'm pretty sure he ended his career with Atlanta.
He was in Portland at one point.
Definitely. He was in Portland after Boston because he played himself into a new contract.
Yeah. And that's when he was trying to do the podcast and we were DMing each other about it.
I completely forgot about
that. Okay. I mean, I'm down to go with him. I don't remember him on Boston,
I think we do Evan Turner. I'm pretty confident.
Evan Turner. Boom. Okay. There you go. 0.7.
Yeah. I think he ended his career in Atlanta. It was Sixers, Pacers, Boston. Portland. You mentioned Portland. Yeah. And then, oh, damn, look at us. We nailed Evan Turner. Yeah. Portland, Atlanta. We got all of it. Atlanta was his last season. He played 19 games in Atlanta in 2019, 2020.
There we go. All right. So is there what I think we should think for the finals MVP for Boston is there a player that won finals MVP? Do we know if they have to do it on the team?
I think it has to be with them. Yeah. Yeah. Finals MVP must be one with the team.
All right. So Jaylen Brown's obviously the answer.
Yeah. I mean, Jaylen Brown's won recently. Paul Pierce works. Larry Bird works. It's tough when you go back to all the ones when they won. Like Bill Russell is the name of the award, but he never won finals MVP because it didn't exist back then.
That's so funny.
And so, like, that's where it's tough because there are people like I think Havlicek would probably have won.
I don't know, like history NBA like that is the problem. Like you go back to those old teams, I'm not gonna know who won.
Bird won. I'm sorry, Just go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I'm not gonna remember those. I'm gonna be useless there.
Yeah, Bird won in the 80s for sure. And I think Bird is people are going to get. Paul Pierce was 08 and Jaylen was obviously this year. My problem is I don't know when the Finals MVP started, and I probably should look that up. If it's in the 70s, like if it's active in the 70s, I know John Havlicek is one of them because the Boston won with him as the main guy in the 70s. There probably is one or two other random ones in there. I just don't know them. Like I think of like the JoJo Whites of the world and guys like that.
Let's guess Joe.
No, but I don't think JoJo White is right though. You know what I mean?
Oh.
I think my point. I say all this to say that I only feel comfortable guessing Larry Bird, Jaylen Brown, and Paul Pierce.
Okay.
And I guess Paul Pierce is the least of those three. Like Jaylen just won it.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah. And Larry Bird is Mr. Celtic.
16% is pretty low.
I think he's the lowest out of those three for sure. I mean, if Havlicek won, I think he'd be lower too. But
so my boy, I always go to the well for this connection. Zaza Pachulia, baby.
Yeah, hey, go for
Warriors.
We've been talking about it for a little bit.
For Orlando Warriors, 5%. Zaza.
Yeah, controversial. Don't go to San Antonio still, Zaza. Okay, for Warriors and Hawks, there's one right on the tip of my tongue right now, and I'm not sure why I can't think of it.
Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, that works. I mean, that wasn't who I was thinking of, but that 100% works.
Jeremy Lin definitely works.
I thought Sean Livingston for a second, but I don't think he played for Atlanta. Excuse me.
Oh, you know who else works? Kent Bazemore. For sure works.
Definitely works.
He played a ton of games for both. Yeah.
I think Bazemore low-key might be high, dude. Like quietly might be real high. Dwight never went to Golden State, so that's not a thing.
Nope.
I don't think Boogie ever went to Atlanta.
Oh, you know, Zaza would have worked here too, actually.
He would have actually, you're right.
Okay.
All right, well, let's come back there. Let's come back to that and think about it a little longer. Try to see if we can get somebody rarer. Let's mop this 20 points a game per season real quick. Orlando, Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Dwight Howard, Paulo is the recent one. I don't think Franz had 20 last year. I don't think he was quite at 20 a season, but he definitely was close.
Aaron Gordon or Tobias?
Aaron Gordon, I don't ever think had 20 like that, man.
Okay.
Tobias might have. Tobias would be interesting. Who did there was somebody I just thought of. T-Mac is another obvious one.
T-Mac.
Who else might have?
Yeah, with like a Turkaloo. Who else back in the day?
Well, so it's like Rashard Lewis is somebody who I think is on the fence.
Yep.
I don't know if he did with Orlando though.
Wasn't there like who point guards before Elfrid Payton, but after the Dwight Howard stuff?
For Orlando, that scored a bunch.
I feel like there was one, like a Jameer Nelson or.
No, I know. I'm trying to think. I mean, Vooch probably had 20.
Oh, Oladipo.
Did Oladipo have 20 with the Magic?
He had to have, right?
I don't know, man. He was really young. Like one would think so. You're right, but he was really young on Orlando, dude.
Like Herzonia never did it.
No, definitely not.
Ooh, Oladipo would be an interesting one.
I don't think he did. I really don't. Okay. Not Orlando. Indy for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe like some of the teams after, but I don't think he was there yet in Orlando. And he got hurt.
Yeah, but I thought he was like starting, like that's my thing is that year he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't think he played long enough. That's the problem.
Yeah. What did he do? 3-4 years with Orlando?
The other, like, I mean, if you go back, it's like Nick Anderson, maybe. I think Nick Anderson had 20. He's the Magic's first ever pick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with any of them, really.
I mean, Shaq and Dwight are the obvious ones, and T-Mac. T-Mac is pretty obvious too.
I think Tobias would be an interesting one if he did it.
I know. I just don't trust Tobias. I feel like Tobias is gonna let me down again.
It'd be fitting.
No one might work. No, I wonder. The guy they traded T-Mac for, Steve Francis. I wonder if Steve Francis works on Orlando, man. He's great.
We said Vooch, right? Like he definitely did.
Yeah, Vooch definitely.
Yeah,
Vooch 100% works. Vooch is a safe guess. And if we want to go Vooch, I'm not mad at it either.
No,
but I think he'll be lower than the main guys.
Like I feel like Vooch, Dwight are probably the top two. T-Mac
I think Dwight will be way higher than Vooch is.
I think they'll both. Yeah, but I think they'll both be high. I'm cool with whatever. I'm willing to follow your lead on this one.
All right, let's do Steve Francis. I'm gonna call my shot, and y'all can blame me if we get this wrong. Let's go.
There you go, Francis.
Okay.
All right.
Finals MVP in 20. How much time you got?
Yeah, like who do we want to get? Should we lock in?
No, we should do it for Finals MVP since he just passed and we paid tribute to him last episode. Jerry West. We should do Jerry West.
Deal. Jerry West. 3%. That's offensive.
He just passed. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. So for Hawks and Warriors, or for Hawks 20 a game per season,
got a lot.
I mean, Dominique Wilkins is probably the most obvious. Trae Young right now.
Paul Millsap. Actually, I bet you did Oladipo end up on the Hawks? No, I'm thinking Heat, right? He probably didn't.
Oladipo was on the Heat, yeah.
Yeah. But I'd be Paul Millsap would be a fun one. Do you think he did it?
The problem with Paul Millsap in Atlanta, and he might have, but with those teams, they're all just so balanced that I don't associate any of them scoring 20.
Yeah.
Even with like Al Horford and like Kyle Korver and Jeff Teague and all those guys, like they all just were so even that I don't think they really scored 20 like that. Joe, I definitely know scored 20, and Joe Johnson for sure.
Yeah.
Did. Trae for sure did. Dominique Wilkins for sure did. If we really want to go back in the like Bob Pettit probably did. Bob Pettit's Hall of Famer. They were playing for St. Louis then, but like they were the Hawks. I think it was their last title, low-key, when they beat the Celtics. They were one of the only teams to beat Bill Russell. They beat Bill Russell in 1950, like 7 or 58.
Well, Trae Young obviously works. I think we said that.
Yeah. Shoot, DeJounte Murray might work.
Ooh, that'd be an interesting one. I don't know. I can't get too creative on this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back and think of like random guys I know. Like Sharif Abdur-Rahim's a good player. We've used him before, but like I don't think he averaged 20 on the Hawks.
Yeah.
Or did he?
Did Kevin Huerter get 20?
No way.
No way, right?
No way.
Okay.
Know who might have though? Actually, I'm talking myself out of it. Never mind. I was gonna say Josh Smith, but I don't think Josh Smith ever got to 20.
Okay. No, like Jamal Crawford.
Oh, well.
Because we said he worked for them, and he worked for Golden State and the Hawks.
Jamal Crawford was good on the Hawks, dude.
That's
so close. That's another one of those guys that's so good. There's so many. If it was 15, I'd have like 30 by now. But because I'd even guess Abdur-Rahim if it was 30.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm taking him out of the equation, but I'm looking Sharif Abdur-Rahim up. Son of a bitch, he has 20. And I cursed on the pod. Double whammy back to back. He had 21.5 on Atlanta. Oladipo did not have 20 on Orlando, by the way. His high was like 17.9. He was really close. Neither did Nick Anderson, who we mentioned. That one surprised me. He was at 19.9. You want to talk about close?
Yeah, like at that point, just let me shoot one more in a game to get me there.
Like find a way. Okay. Let's go Bob Pettit. Let's go Super Boomer then and keep that theme going.
Bob?
Yeah.
Bobby Pettit.
And none of them were in Atlanta, but it works. What a picture. That might be the first black and white one on the podcast.
In a while, at least. Yeah.
All right. So let's close this out. Golden State, Atlanta. Bazemore's the obvious one.
Bazemore,
I don't know, man. I'm kind of like, I thought there were more. I feel like I had a bunch in my head and they all just kind of vanished.
I know who worked for Hawks, 20 points, Joe Johnson. I think we said that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just popped in my head. Okay. For Warriors, Hawks.
Like,
oh, we said Jeremy Lin.
Oh, yeah, we do Jeremy Lin if you want.
I mean, he'll
be less than Bazemore.
Yeah, Bazemore, Jeremy Lin, Zaza, but we already used them.
You tell me. Close it out.
Like a Mike Dunleavy.
Wait. Hang on.
What? Dunleavy played so many games for the Warriors, didn't he?
Wait, he what?
Didn't he play a bunch of games for the Warriors?
That's what I'm saying. Mike Dunleavy works, I think.
I think he played a lot of games for the Warriors.
No, he definitely played for the Warriors. That's why I'm saying. I'm pretty sure he played for the Hawks. That's why I'm saying pull it. I think that's it.
Yeah, because Dunleavy was my guy in one of the NBA 2Ks.
Yeah, he had a long career. He played for, I think, like 13 plus years almost, it feels like.
Yeah, Dunleavy was.
I think we use Jeremy Lin a lot too. Like, let's close it out. Mike Dunleavy definitely works. Like that's it, and this is why I tell people. I tell my mom this earlier actually.
Don't click the wrong one.
No, actually, because my mom plays New York Times crossword or not crossword. She does the it's the one where you got to put groups of categories like buzzwords or whatever or something. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the point is, if she ever calls me and we do it, we just don't lose every time. I say with Grid, where it's like, if I was playing one, I never would think of Mike Dunleavy there, even though I know he works. But when I talk with you and you pop something like that, I'm go, oh yeah, that does click.
That's it. Yeah. All right, Dunleavy it is.
Yeah, let's cap it. 9 for 9, 76. Gotta love the irony there a little bit. All right, so most popular answers for the Immaculate Grid. Celtics and Magic is Shaq. That's not really surprising. Celtics and Hawks is Al Horford. That's definitely not surprising. Finals MVP was Jaylen Brown, so the recency won out. For Magic and Warriors, the most popular is Matt Barnes, who I always forget to use in Immaculate Grid, and he works in a lot of places low-key. So I need to drill that into my head. Ken Bazemore was popular for most popular for Hawks and Warriors. And Iguodala was actually the most popular Warriors finals MVP over Steph. That is crazy, but I guess, dude.
Damn.
Meme, man. I guess the meme rules all. Penny Hardaway was the most popular for Magic or for, old school there with Penny getting Magic in 20 a game, most popular. Trae Young, most popular for Hawks in 20 a game per season. Michael Jordan, the most popular for finals MVP in 20 a game.
Or being the most popular in the middle is wild.
I'm telling you, man, that's gonna stick around for a while. I don't know why, but it just feels that way. Hardest to answer was Magic and Warriors. That's fair. I feel that. I definitely get that.
Not when it's Zaza on the table.
No, I know. Warriors and Hawks second. To recap our grid, though, one last time. Jameer Nelson for Celtics and Magic. Evan Turner for Celtics and Hawks. Paul Pierce, Celtics Finals MVP. Zaza Pachulia for Warriors and Magic, Mike Dunleavy for Warriors and Hawks, Andre Iguodala for Warriors and Finals MVP, Steve Francis, Magic 20 a game per season, Bob Pettit, Hawks 20 a game per season, and Jerry West 20 a game per season and Finals MVP. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us.
And we're on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. You get a video version of the podcast. And as we wrap up the episode to put a cap on the 2024 seasons, we say a massive